Layers here, layers there, layers everywhere. Hi, and welcome to Red Evony. I am Akayasha. You can call me Aka, and I'm going to be layering you up today. The talk of layers for some people is something that makes them go white in the eyes as they have hot flashbacks of math class from high school. For others, it's a chance to whip out the spreadsheet and have some great fun. But in this video, I'm going to break down layering for you in a simple way that anyone can apply nice and easy. Now, since this is a video about simplifying, I'm not going to start explaining why layers are important. All you need to remember is,
They are. They just are.
okay, they are. Let's head on to the rally spot. There are two golden rules that you need to remember when it comes to layering. The first one is every tier and every troop type that you have must appear in your layers. It doesn't matter the amount, they just have to be there. The second thing is that T12 is king. Just remember that. We'll touch on it a bit later. So to start things off, we need to take note of our march size. As you can see mine right there, my march size is 1.125 million. The next thing you need to take note of is what are your three highest tiers? For this illustration, the highest tier I'm going to be using is T13. You can see the relationship between the tiers right here. So for this case, I have 13, 12, and 11, with 12 being the primary tier, 13 being the secondary tier, and 11 being the third tier. So we need to take note of that as well. Now that we know our highest tiers, we now need to determine the number of troops that are going into the quote-unquote layers. To do this, you take away 3 from the number of your highest tiers. So in this case, my highest tier is 13. I take away 3 from 13, I have 10. So I'm going to have 10 tiers that are only layers. And these layers are going to be made up of 1,000 troops each for each of the troop types within the layer. Now that we know that, we need to adjust our effective march size. So, for 10 tiers with 4 troop types and 1,000 troops per troop type, we have 40,000 troops. So we take away 40,000 from our initial march size, and we have our effective march size right here. Now that we have our effective march size, we need to split this march size amongst the 3 main tiers. And this is done very simply. We take half of the effective march size that goes into our primary tier. The remaining half gets split between the secondary tier and the third tier in such a way that the secondary tier has more troops than the third one. So when all is said and done, we'll end up with something like a 50, 30, 20% split amongst the primary, secondary, and third tiers. And right here, you can see the priority order for the tiers, so you know which one is your primary and which one is your secondary. Now that we have the numbers for our tiers, what type of march are we building? For this illustration, I'm going to be building an archer march. So the numbers that you see there will be going into the archers for those tiers. And we put the numbers in like so. T12 is our primary tier, so we go to our T12 archers and put the numbers in. 13 will be our secondary tier, so we go to our T13 archers and put the numbers in. Finally, the third tier is T11. We come to our T11 archers, put those numbers in as well. Okay, that's good. Now, for each of these tiers, we take away 50,000 troops, and we adjust the numbers accordingly. Starting with the primary tier again, we adjust the numbers like that. Secondary tier, like this. And then the third tier, like so. Great. Now, the 50,000 troops that we took out will get shared amongst the remaining 3 troop types in each tier. I'm sure we all remember the basic relationship between the troop types. Since we are building an archer march, archers will be killing mounted troops. So for our protective layer, we'll be using mounted troops. The protective layer will get more troops out of the share of the 50,000. So what we do here, for the protective layer, we put 30,000 troops in there. There, done for all three. Now, for the remaining two troop types, we put 10,000 in each one. There, all done. So we look at the 13s, yeah, everything's there. We look at the 12s, everything's there and good. We look at the 11s, great stuff. Now, from this point, we just fill in all the layers with 1,000 troops going all the way down to T1. And there you have it, folks. Your march, fully layered all the way down. Nice, simple, straightforward, and easy. You just check to make sure that everything is all right and there are no mistakes there. And once everything is good, save your preset and you're good to go. You can do the exact same procedure for a ground march or a cav march. You just have to make sure that you adjust your main troops and your protective layer accordingly. You can also use this approach for layering your march, irrespective of whatever your highest tier is. Just make sure to pay attention to the priority order of the tiers that we showed here. To reiterate, this is simplified layering. And trust me, I could easily make an hour-long video talking about what types of splits to use, whether to use a 50-30-20 like we did here, whether to use a 45-35-20. We could talk about counter troops, counter troops. We could talk about whether to include siege in your march. We could talk about so many things regarding layering. But the point of this video is to keep it simple. Now, in case you're following this layering guide and from the numbers, you find out that you don't have enough troops to actually fill out the various layers, the simplest thing that you could do is to just fill out the remaining space with troops from your second highest tier. That would be okay as well. The next thing is to use these numbers as a guide for the amount of troops that you should be aiming to build for your keep. In an ideal situation, you'd want to have enough troops to completely fill out your layers the way they're supposed to be filled out. Now, if you found this simplified guide to layering helpful, be sure to give the video a like, maybe drop a comment down below. Here's a bonus tip. If you are taking part in Arctic Barbarians or any sort of game events that simulates PvP, you would want to layer your marches, but you need to make sure that the siege in your marches is as low as possible. You do not need to rack up the gem cost for repairing those troops. So my recommendation is you just put 10 troops for your siege layers and you spread the remaining troops out amongst your other troop types. And if you'd still like some additional help in preparing for PvP sessions, be sure to check out this other video here. Thank you, and Aka signing out.